It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Oh, let's review.
We'll analyze the scene.
Sounds holly jolly to me.
Before it's over, let's begin.
Bum.
Bum.
That's right, folks. Since the Christmas season is upon us, we thought the way to celebrate and get into the holiday spirit would be with some holiday reviews.
6 to be exact. Selected and arranged for your Yuletide pleasure.
So, silver up those bells, light the multicolored lights, and go out and build a snowman as we engage in some
Seasonal
seasonal
shenanigans!
shenanigans. All right, Dragon, it is Christmas Eve. We have one last delivery to make to the good people, and that delivery, sir, the season finale of Seasonal Shenanigans 2024, is none other than Miracle on 34th Street. Not the original black and white version, but the 1994 version, which is, of course, celebrating 30 years as of this year. So, Dragon, I don't know about you. This was definitely out of the original and the remake. I think this was the one that I was definitely more familiar with. I didn't realize that it had come out like so soon after Jurassic Park. I mean, I guess they were kind of capitalizing on the John Hammond magic. I mean, who's the real Santa Claus, Kris Kringle or John Hammond? The world may never know. But Dragon, I got to tell you, I think we kind of had some trouble picking the finale this year. We landed on this just because of the anniversary factor more than anything else. But this holds up a lot better than I thought it would, honestly. I honestly kind of feel like this is one of the better remakes, at least of a Christmas movie. I mean, I think just the charm of the lead actors, all four of them, honestly, really elevate this thing. I think this is probably a better overall movie than the black and white Miracle on 34th Street, if I would be so bold as to say. I really thought this thing held up very well, and I'm excited to talk about it. I think it is going to be a fitting conclusion to this year's festivities.
So I don't quite feel the same way.
Ooh, okay.
Here's the thing. I don't think this surpasses the original. I really don't. I think it's a good faith effort, and I think there's a lot of good in this. I really do. It's got a great cast, cinematography, and the score very top tier, very good. I don't think John Hughes necessarily was ambitious enough with what he was going for. I think like the skeleton of the story basically, I don't think he was ambitious with the skeleton of the story. I think he changed up a few things, and I think he remained true to the story, but maybe to the point where it was kind of a detriment as an adaptation
Mm.
of the same thing. Basically, I think he got so wrapped up in okay, we're gonna Gus Van Sant this here. We're gonna we're gonna we're gonna do it over again, but in color and hopefully a way that could maybe like you could watch this and feel like you watched Miracle on 34th Street, but in doing so, I think he got hung up on like the few changes that he did have, I think come with a big magnifying glass of like wait a minute. I don't know that you're like in the back of your mind, you keep comparing it versus like, okay, we just know from the get go this is going to be different, but it's like in service of the same hallmark story, as it were.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so I think a lot of that sticks out, and I think because of that, we end up with kind of what I think a lot of people have with these two films. It's a lot of comparison versus like just genuine discussion over like this is how you adapt it versus it's like well this one did that and that one did that. I think there's gonna be a lot of comparison versus just more of like just good faith. Like these are two very different and serviceable kind of takes on a really great story. But then again, there's only been like technically three real takes on Miracle on 34th Street, and this is like these are the big two, so
Mhm.
it might be unavoidable in that case.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. I probably should have rewatched the original to make such a bold statement, but I haven't seen the original since we covered it, however long ago that was. Uh, For me, honestly, it's probably the John Hammond factor. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a sucker for Richard Attenborough, and I think he just absolutely just owns the fucking Chris Kringle role like
Well,
so
absolutely.
heavily in this movie, and it lights up the screen every time he's on screen.
Mhm.
I think as a performance, he's definitely more memorable than the original Chris Kringle.
Ooh, there's a bold statement for you.
Well, I know, they're both great, but I'm saying Attenborough,
That guy
man.
won an Oscar for playing Santa Claus, man. That's no small feat.
Right.
You know how many Santa Clauses there have been in the history of film? A
All
lot.
right. Okay, really quick, we got Little Blue here. Well, I don't think he's here now. He was here 5 hours ago.
Well, he's here in spirit.
He's saying, I've seen this movie for this year for the first time. Did my review of it this year earlier this month. I'm definitely going to be here for this. See you in 5 hours. Where are you now, Eli?
That is yet to be seen. If you don't show up, Little Blue, you're dead to us.
Yeah, you're breaking a Christmas promise.
Yeah, you don't break
Nothing's more sacred than a Christmas promise.
The only thing more sacred than a Christmas promise is the magic bean.
Oh my god. I feel like we've gotten more use out of the magic bean this year than the actual year we did Night Before Christmas. Oh man. All right, good times.
What about the magic bean?
What about the magic bean?
All right. You found the magic bean.
Okay, so Dragon, give us the magic bean of a backstory. That was a forced transition.
That was. Sorry. To condense things, John Hughes essentially he was coming off of major Christmas successes, in the late '80s, the early '90s, and more so just the early '90s period. Because think about this: you had National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which he wrote, and essentially. Mm-hmm. He feels like he was on track to direct, but John Hughes was getting really busy with a lot of stuff, and he was kind of doing a little more writing in kind of the early '90s. So basically, he wrote National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and also Home Alone. So these were two big John Hughes authored works that were mega successes, and of course have become Christmas classics. For me, my heart of hearts, and still to this day, National Lampoon's Vacation. Specifically, a lot of people I'm sure will say Home Alone. They're not wrong for saying that. So, point being,
it sounds like Home Alone 2 Lost in New York.
Well, yeah.
Everything besides the Trump cameo is pretty perfect in that movie, I think.
Well, yeah. Well, even so, that was Trump before all that stuff. Though.
Yeah, I know. It's just like it's the one element of that movie.
I mean, that was like a cute cameo. Like, oh, he owns the building.
No, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Politics.
Anyway,
making our childhood.
Well, technically. Daredevil season 3 is set in that hotel. You do realize that, right?
That's true. Yeah.
We call it the President's Hotel. It's like Anyway, so that's like we can, at the very least, we can't begrudge the space. You can feel however you want to about the man. I mean, that Wilson Fisk camped out there, man. We gotta love that space.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. So, point being, it sounds like John, I forget if they were pitching him or he was actively looking into it. The point being, with all the Christmas success under his belt, the question was, hey, John Hughes, which classic do you want to remake?
Mm-hmm.
And Miracle on 34th Street was like, that was the biggie. And, John Hughes, basically his interest in it was, like, how do we explore Miracle on 34th Street in a more modern setting? I think that's what the original intent was. Now, I would argue that we kind of got away from that as the movie went on. I don't know how much that is just maybe in like the making of the movie, certain things take a back seat. It's still there, but it feels maybe like the outset of what he maybe intended to do got maybe a little watered down as the production went on. I'm not sure. And for the reasons I'm about to get into, it feels like there might have been some distractions in the process. So Les Mayfield directed this. Now, Les Mayfield, he did Encino Man and Flubber. Two films with a following, for sure, specifically Encino Man. Encino Man's well loved.
Yeah.
You remember Encino Man a little bit, don't you?
I know of Encino Man. I've never actually watched it.
That's worth watching. It's like one of the few. I'm pretty sure Pauly Shore's in that movie. I think he's like one of the few Pauly Shore gems. Anyway, point being, let's see. So, What was I get? All right. So originally there were a few different names considered. There were many names considered for in remaking like the one of the American Christmas classics with Miracle on 34th Street. There were a lot of people considered for the iconic roles. Two that I wanted to bring up. Sean Connery was at one point. I don't know if he was like the main front runner, but before Dickie
You know
Attenborough
what's funny
got
about Connery is that, like back in the day, I used to get him mixed up with Richard Attenborough in
really
specifically in The Last Crusade. Yeah, I remember I had the VHS of The Last Crusade, and I totally thought it was Richard Attenborough on the box.
Oh wow. Well, there you go. He's been stealing his gigs. But so Connery was considered, and then here's one I think actually might have been really interesting. Kyle MacLachlan was considered for Brian.
Oh my
Bedford.
God, freaking Kyle MacLachlan! That would have been crazy.
Yeah, for Brian Bedford, for
Oh, for Brian Bedford. Oh,
yeah,
God.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking Kyle MacLachlan.
No.
Santa, like maybe nowadays.
Well, nowadays, absolutely. First of all, let me say this, just period. Kyle MacLachlan is awesome at any time period. He's wonderful.
I'm currently watching him in the Fallout show, which I'm not all the way through, but yeah, he's good in it.
I mean, seriously, one of the best Kyle MacLachlan things I've ever seen. No joke. His performance in season 2 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is masterful.
I believe it.
Like, he is so good in that. Anyway, let's see. Okay, so here's where I'm getting to, like, so within the writing, the adaptations, the biggest hurdle that they had was we didn't have Macy's and Gimbals.
Yeah, I noticed that.
So there's a reason for that. Okay, so Gimbals, long gone. So Gimbals just had closed up shops. In the modern setting, it would not be there. And it's interestingly, if you watch the movie Elf, the facade of Gimbals is entirely CG, and that Gimbals is made as a throwback. Elf has kind of like a mythical kind of thing there. Like, what if Gimbals never shut down?
Sure, yeah.
So essentially, that's kind of Elf's big cheat there. But people love Gimbals, though. I actually have family who've been to Gimbals, and they loved it. Anyway, so the point being, so
like
Gimbals,
maybe they could have gone with like FAO Schwartz.
Well, here's what I'm about to get. So Gimbals had closed up shop. I don't know if FAO Schwartz even still around. Do you think?
Nowadays, I don't know. I don't think so. I'd have to look it up. Back then, absolutely, it was still around.
So Macy's, interestingly, they turned them down. Which is saying something. So Macy's had a really good reason, though. They turned them down reportedly because they felt a remake wasn't necessary, and that even Macy's didn't want to chance a remake. Like, you know what, guys, we want to go out on a high note on that one. We had like the best representation of our company ever in that movie. Won an Oscar for a Santa Claus performance. What more can we add? We don't want to just we don't want to commercialize a classic. We don't want to do that. So Macy's basically turned them down. Enter Kohl's as the fill-in for Macy's, which uses like the same the star-shaped logo in the parade balloon like Macy's, but Anyway. So there are actually some fun little nods.
You know what bothers me more than anything about the Kohl's thing?
Because there's an actual store called Kohl's.
Yes, but it's spelled differently.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. I think that I forget
so
that.
Whenever
Kohl's,
anyone in this movie mentions Kohl's, I think they're thinking of like that Kohl's.
I don't know if that Kohl's was around by the time they made this movie. That's the thing.
I would think it was, but yeah,
I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know. I think Kohl's feels a little more modern. Like Kohl's maybe feels early 2000s.
There's only one way to find out. Hold on. Kohl's. Hold on. What year was Kohl's founded? No, Kohl's has been around since 1962.
Well, never mind then. I guess it was a big fat cheat. That's what it was. You know what? We're going to use Kohl's. We don't want to use that Kohl's. We're just going to really. It makes you wonder of all the names they could have chosen. If not,
they could have called it Stir Kohl's.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but it is a good question. FAO Schwartz, I'm going to imagine maybe they can get the rights to FAO Schwartz. I mean, if that was an option, the real Kohl's, I don't know if the real Kohl's turned them down or not. And it's like, okay, fine, we're going to use Kohl's.
The real Kohl's is more of like a clothing store more than anything else. It's
yeah. Really,
yeah, it's less.
But it still begs the question, though, why would they use such a similar name, though?
Right. Yeah, that's the real question. Yeah,
I'm saying we came up with a fake Gimbals. Why couldn't we come up with a fake Macy's? Think about this.
I don't know.
The DCAU had a number of great fake store names. Okay, so you had like I think the real one's Bergdorf's in Batman Answers is Bergdorf's.
Mm.
Here's what I'm saying. That's seamless. They couldn't call like Macy's Masons or something, like
Yeah, who knows?
Anyway, so a few nods to the original, like for example, the doorman is Alfred from the original film. The basically the kind of the basically kind of the protege to the Ed Gwynn Santa.
Right.
The
Right.
kind-hearted young guy in the Santa suit who you kind of chat up over the milkshake and everything.
Sure.
That
Sure.
guy,
Yeah.
he is in
Yeah.
the movie. It's like nice little. It's like when we get Jimmy Olsen in the Superman Returns, kind of like one of those kind of nods.
Mhm.
Anyway, so we had music done by Bruce Broughton. Bruce Broughton. This guy, tremendously talented composer, did Silverado and Harry and the Hendersons, which this thing exudes Harry and the Hendersons energy in the score, and I love that. Yeah. Anyway, so I guess to put a punctuation on things, the movie was kind of killed buzzwise by the Santa Claus being its competition. So Santa Claus
yeah, big
murderized.
time for sure.
So yeah, so the Santa Claus murderized this movie, and obviously it was kind of buried in a lot of the comparisons. So critically, it did not do nearly as well as the original did.
Mm.
So say la vie. Okay.
I really do feel like with my generation in particular, who grew up with Jurassic Park from a young age, this movie does resonate, though.
It's like Santa Claus with dinosaurs. Guess what? We're gonna literalize it. He's gonna be
Exactly.
We're gonna give him a cane. Is there amber at the end of the cane? No, but he's gonna hit people with it. Okay. It's like the one thing John Hammond didn't do. He didn't hit people with the cane. We're gonna do that.
If John Hammond was ever in like a Smash Brothers clone, he would have like a Scrooge McDuck bouncy cane move.
No. Here's the thing. Okay, if we ever brought John Hammond back using CG or some such thing, and like in one of the
Hollywood, please don't.
You have like a bit where his end game moment, I guess. So he unlatches like the top part of the can, he pushes a button, he throws it out, it hatches like a giant giant mosquito that turns into a dinosaur.
Oh my god!
Like it reanimates it right before it like technology in the cane. It just it basically falls out the amber and splices it with dinosaur DNA, and it's a giant Jurassic. Either a mosquito then turns into whatever dinosaur sample DNA is in there. You think I'm joking, but I'm hearing horror stories about the footage for the new Jurassic World movie.
No.
I'm not saying they're going to bring Hammond back. I'm saying of doing weird dinosaur DNA stuff like that.
Dino DNA.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
Anyway,
last I heard was Gareth Edwards was going to go back to the roots of the franchise. I'm like, I've only heard that through every other Jurassic Park sequel. We'll see if you can stick the landing on this one, buddy. Anyway.
See Hollywood, you see this boy here, you see this boy in a dinosaur t-shirt. He's asking everyone about T-Rexes and Velociraptors. You see him, you've lied to him too many times. You got to look
honestly,
at him.
Yes. When it comes to the Jurassic franchise, yes.
He's heard it before. You got to stop cheating on the boy. You got to look him in the eyes, and you got to tell him, you know what? We got nothing. We've given up. You got to tell it to him. Don't give him hope. He has so little to live for. Okay, don't give him.
It's literally just about the money at this point. You know what the Jurassic franchise has given me recently, Dragon?
Diabetes. Go on.
It's given me far and away the best roller coaster that I've ever been on. So you know what? It's doing something, right?
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Anyways.
All right. So I guess let's jump into things. So our inciting incident, pretty much the same. We have, however, we draw emphasis to the drunk Santa with character actor, which I approve that choice of character actor playing our drunk Santa.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this kind of right from the get go, we kind of summarize what I think maybe a problem with the movie kind of is, and that we're putting maybe a little too much effort in certain places because we want to do a little bigger and better because it's like, well, we're coming back to it now. We have things we didn't have back then. When drunk Santa screws up, the nail in the coffin isn't like the butt crack, which we don't need. It's not that. No, what it is when he tips over the entire sleigh, which somehow we miraculously fix in the next scene. Like that's what I'm talking about.
It's 90s slapstick, Dragon. Come on.
I know it's 90s slapstick, but I don't think we need 90s slapstick in 34th Street. of all
Okay,
'90s.
but on that note, tell me the actual cold open of the movie isn't great, and specifically how that loops back around
I love.
at the courthouse.
Okay, so speaking of '90s kind of isms here, so Robert Prosky is the seemingly the old man who ultimately will be the judge. Now
Mhm.
we have seen him in a year prior iconic '90s film we all know and love. He was in Mrs. Doubtfire. He is
Nice.
Mr. Lundy. He's the guy we're trying to schmooze, and ultimately, Mrs. Doubtfire's date, kind of.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so I loved him as Mr. Lundy in that movie, and I love him here as the judge. So he is, he's fantastic. I should also probably mention, by the way, I think it's the first time I've seen this movie all the way through the remake.
You know what? I want to say it is too, but I definitely remember seeing it on TV. That's where I remember it from.
Because I definitely didn't see the ending of this movie. That much I do know.
And the ending does go on a little long, and that's definitely one of the cons I have with it. We'll get there when we get there.
Point being, I'm 100% with you though. That was a very welcome. Well, this is what I'm talking about. This is like bringing lifeblood into it. And again, the grounding element, the big benefit this movie has, the MVP of this film, as I think we're both aware, is Richard Attenborough as Kris Kringle. He's the merry gentleman. He's he's got
The merry gentleman.
he's the merry gentleman. He's got charm for days. He's absolutely committed to the role. And I love. By the way, one of my favorite details with the Santa Claus, I love that he has his own Santa suit that he gets to put on. He's like in the department store. He looks great in the actual Santa suit, which is like it's custom high end. It's like got gold buttons and gold thread. And we even have an awesome suit up montage for Santa Claus, which I didn't think I needed, but I so totally needed. It's amazing. It's like we gave Santa Claus the Batman equivalent. We gave him a suit up, but it's all magical and whimsical.
Yeah.
So love that. So these are the beats that I'm living for in this movie, and I'm loving. So Attenborough's killing it.
Absolutely. All right. I guess we should get into maybe like probably the most divisive element of the movie, I'm guessing, which is Mara Wilson.
Well, do you want to touch the casting overall, just
Yeah, I
broadly?
think so. Because honestly, like I said, I think all four of the leads are really well cast. I
So
really think they kind of.
I don't think we had bad casting in the movie per se. I really think. But here's the problem though. Okay, I'm gonna give you a weird example. Okay, a weird comparison.
Okay.
I think we had kind of an inverse of. I think we kind of broke the Superman casting principle. In that, Superman's casting principle was verisimilitude. Now we want to match things as closely as possible to like feel like the book come to life. But additionally to that, the main casting principle is like we will cast an unknown as Superman. But we will fill him with recognizable people as our supporting
Right.
cast. So basically, we would, because the reason for that being you would see the actor wearing a costume before you would see the character come to life.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that, we kind of did an inverse here in that, Attenborough, he fits like a glove into the Santa Claus role, so that's fine. So we kind of like inversed it there because, we all know Richard Attenborough for Jurassic Park the year prior. So, we
And to
know
be
him,
fair, I
but
mean, Bradborough, obviously a very accomplished
yeah.
filmmaker, won an Oscar for directing Gandhi back in the day, among a lot of other movies. I mean, he's a very accomplished guy, like before John Hammond. Just
Even though the industry will not recognize it, I will say, I love the Chaplin movie, and he did such a great job. I think he
exactly.
did such
Yeah,
a great
yeah.
job directing. The minimum, the performance he got out of Downey Jr. was Oscar worthy in itself.
hmm
That movie deserved maybe 2 Oscars, performance and director, but regardless. Um, but that's the thing. So the fact is,
You can watch Gandhi on a VHS tape, Dragon.
I could.
That's an obscure Siskel and Ebert reference.
Anyway, well, what I'm getting at, Tiki, in a long way, is that you know everyone else is kind of a recognizable star of the '90s era, and they're all great and they all fit the roles. But there is that there's I appreciate the familiar faces, I do, and the talent, and I really do think they deliver. But by that same logic, and specifically with Mara Wilson, we're not quite getting the same average Joe kind of magic that we had in Miracle on 34th Street, where maybe you didn't recognize a lot of those people, and maybe like for example, Natalie Wood was an ingenue. She was, I think if I'm using that term right, she was discovered in that movie.
Right.
She was brought she felt like an actual kid. Mara Wilson feels like this is like the child star of
and
the
this
90s
is going
era.
to be kind of like the dividing point, I think, because I gotta tell you, I really, I mean, Mara Wilson in this movie is absolutely the prototypical, like, cliche, like, like little kid who's way too intelligent and well-spoken to be a little kid, but is still adorable. Like, that's Mara Wilson in this movie to an absolute T.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it works, and I think it works specifically because of the story and the whole angle of, like, the character being a little kid who is, mature enough to not believe in Santa by her mother's own choice. And I think that really works with the role. Really quick, I want to shout out Richard's victims in the comments. Happy to see you, man. Hope you're having a happy holidays. He says, I actually really like this movie. I saw it before the original, so maybe I wouldn't be as positive on it if I'd seen the original first. I hear you. All right. But yeah, I don't know. I really do think that Mara Wilson, like I said, it's very much like, it's almost like the prototypical Mara Wilson role in as far as like, you got everything that she was kind of famous for in the 90s. You got the precociousness, you got like the wise beyond her years dialogue. But like I said, I think it works for this character in particular.
No, look, I want to be very clear. Again, I don't think anyone drops the ball in terms of performance here. I'm just saying it's like kind of the earworm of like, you don't have like a scene where it's like, a lot of it feels kind of surface level in that she's hitting the beats and we're getting good scenes here, but I'm not quite feeling the magic. Like we don't have like the scene in the original where, she and Santa Claus, like, they do the very childlike thing of like, they pretend to be monkeys. We don't quite have that here. We don't quite have like playtime. It's just very, it's very broad strokes, and it's like, don't get me wrong, she's good. And I full-heartedly agree with you. Again, being brought up the way she would sound like that, and that works in her favor. As Mara Wilson is playing to her strengths, but it just still feels like, it's like, it's a very central comparison point that you need, though, of like, it's Santa Claus bond to this little girl, and it works. It just doesn't feel as as kind of everlasting as Natalie Wood.
No, I feel you there.
And that's because Natalie Wood wasn't a star, though. She wasn't the recognized.
Like Natalie Wood, by all intents and purposes, when they made that movie, she probably like actually believed he was Santa Claus. Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, that's not a knock against Mara Wilson. That's just kind of the casting principle is that we all know these people from one thing or another, or iconic things in their own. Think about it.
I literally have in the video description for this very video, it just says, like, we recap John Hammond giving Matilda a dad for Christmas.
God.
Oh, by the way, Dragon, just so we acknowledge it, Mara Wilson, one of the lines that she actually has, word for word, is... It's one of our running jokes.
So sad.
I don't have a dad.
Right.
Yeah, good old Josh Thompson, Ash Ketchum there.
Joshua Thomas.
Thomas, I'm sorry, my bad. Come back, Josh. I'm already forgetting your last name.
Yes, she doesn't have a dad.
She doesn't have a dad.
All right, let's see. So, but the thing about that, you got Matilda / Mrs. Doubtfire. You got Big. You have The Practice. These are iconic projects with each of these actors. That is like the thing that's kind of pop into your head first when you see them. Mm-hmm. We had Jane Leaves in this. Daphne from Frasier.
Right.
Anyway.
No, I mean, I hear what you're saying. There's definitely not as much of like a homespun quality as there was in the original.
We have like our bad guy is the bad guy from Lethal Weapon 2.
Just like the bad guy from Lethal Weapon 2.
He's got diplomatic immunity, so Hammer, you can't sue.
Oh, man.
All right, so, I mean, here's the thing. I got it. I won't. But again, with that said, though, having watched The Practice, the show, And loving Dylan McDermott in the practice, I think that's a solid choice for our attorney. I think it's very refreshing to see the softer side of that attorney. Seeing him as a nice guy attorney versus like, oh yeah, he's never a happy moment with that character for the practice.
I mean, I by and large, I think even though the characters in this movie are a little bit more Hollywoodized, I don't think that's a bad thing per se.
It's not a bad thing, It's just I don't know. It's maybe a little distracting, but it's not bad.
Mm.
All right, let's see. So I will say this: one of my favorite. Here's, for example, with that though. I mean, I think Dylan McDermott does. I think he is a standout performance in it, like an underrated performance in it, because obviously our eyes are going a lot towards Mara Wilson and clearly Richard Attenborough. But Dylan McDermott, what he brought to this film that we don't really have is, I don't think we really have in the other.
Feels the most like an everyman out of the cast.
That's the thing. He feels like an everyman, but I love with the everyman quality. I really like seeing the friendship between him and Chris in the movie, and him fervently defending his client and all that. Like that's something we did not have in the original that I really liked seeing here. Like seeing he actually he himself has a connection. He's not just doing a personal favor for Miss Walker. He's like, he actually likes this guy. Totally. He cares about it. And he's had like intimate moments with this guy, like the whole wedding. The whole, we'll get into the stupid proposal thing, but still the fact that he gives him the ring.
Oh yeah, that's definitely a weak point for sure.
It is, but still the gesture, being that as it may, it's still a very heartbreaking one. It's kind of a bittersweet and nice scene where he gives him that ring. He regifts the ring to Chris. That's a really nice.
I mean, do you want to jump there now? Because
we don't. Do you want to jump there now?
I mean, if you think we would be better off going somewhere first, I'll trust your judgment on it.
I mean, you want to talk about Elizabeth Perkins first? Do you want to talk about, just round them out, just talk about her, and then we get to the other stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think Elizabeth Perkins does a good job. I think out of the four leads, she's probably the most forgettable, no fault of her own. I just honestly kind of think it's the nature of her character.
Yeah, I think a missed opportunity. It would have been nice to really get into her head this time around. Because think about this. We always bring it up very. She comes across very bottom line in this to me. Where at the end, Liz Perkins, great casting, but it just feels a lot like she brings up, I'm worried he might mentally not be well. Where it's like, well, okay, maybe there's a thing of I don't really get the vibe that she's really coming around. She kind of cares for this guy, and then like maybe she's troubled by what if I'm kind of encouraging him to setting him up for a fall here by doing this to him, and like the whole mental incompetency thing. Like maybe he's a lovely man, but is his loveliness due to a mental incompetency that I'm basically milking for cash? Like we don't really get into that kind of stuff, which I think would have been like in revisiting the material. Like we really could have maybe gotten some layers there with her and having an actress who could have conveyed those layers, but
But at the same time, it's not like a hot frosty thing where she just kind of like automatically accepts him as Santa either.
No.
It's more so she's just kind of like lukewarm, prickly towards him the whole movie, which is kind of weak sauce.
It just, there's no arc in that when you do that. Yeah, later on, it's like, you have to help him, Brian, even though I stepped on your heart and everything. So that's the transition. So with that.
Oh, Brian is dead. I'm sorry.
Okay, so all right, so the relationship between Ms. Walker and Brian Bedford here. By the way, you changed Brian's name from the original. It's not a big deal. I mean, that's what I'm talking. These are refreshing choices, I guess. Like, I like the name Bedford because it's a nod to. I'm pretty sure it's a nod to It's a Wonderful Life with Bedford Falls.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of cute. Yeah. That's a cute reference, I thought. So anyway. So the relationship is very in the background and very much is kind of a proposal comes honestly, right out of nowhere.
This is the thing is that I really feel like I don't even really think the movie establishes that these two are much more than just like, friends that kind of have a flirtmance going on. You know what I mean?
Like the idea is like he wants, like he's always around. He's kind of like the hunky neighbor that's helping her out.
I get that, but like even in 90s movies, just like if you're literally if you're pursuing a woman and this is like the first date, you don't pop the ring, bozo.
That's what I'm saying. It feels like a first date when it really shouldn't be. I think they're trying to say maybe it's.
Are you an actual sociopath, my dude?
So
like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
I don't know what Hughes was thinking when he wrote that. I think what Hughes's problem was that, like, okay,
I
we have to
honestly think in Hughes's mind, the relationship between the two of them was a lot more well established and well defined, and I just don't think it comes across in the actual writing. Does that make sense?
No, I'm with you. I really overall, I really think the two things that maybe just didn't adapt when we got into the kind of between the screenplay and the direction of the finished film. It feels like we really got sidetracked from the commercialism aspect, and and then we kind of leaned into. I think the story problem was like, okay, the girl wants too much. Okay, in the original, she just wanted a house,
Mm-hmm.
big enough and achieve. It's a question of how the heck is Santa going to get her a house, which we have a great resolution to. Here, it's like I want a house and I want a daddy and I want a baby brother. It's like that. That's
Which,
a
I mean,
tall
to be
order.
fair, I mean, I feel like, yeah, the daddy thing does kind of force the romance to accelerate a little quickly, but I don't think it's like I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Like I said,
No,
I
it's
just think
not. It's
the problem is just that the setup with this guy isn't clear enough that he would be like in that role. Although I will say that with the character, it is nice that, like the first time we're introduced to him in both versions, he's like watching after the kid and letting her watch the parade from his apartment, where there's a good view. Like, it kind of goes to show that he's kind of putting the kid first, in different iterations. So I think that's a good element.
well, I guess what I'm getting at, T, that's not the issue. Is I think she has like it's like three very lofty goals here versus when we just should have settled with one. It's like either the house or the dad. And honestly, I
The
think
third one is a good punchline for the end of the movie, so I don't mind
right.
that.
No, well, sure. That's like the whole like, oh, a puppy, da-da-da-da-da. It's kind of a zoom in kind of a anyway. But no, it just feels like honestly, it doesn't feel like maybe we should have like picked either the dad or the house. Like if we wanted to really kind of like turn
The
things on its head.
dragon, she doesn't have a dad.
Well, no, I'm saying we should have we should have done the dad and not the house.
I don't know. I think both. I think both make sense because she got the house for basically saving the company. So
Yeah. All right. Well, either way. Okay. So the point being, though, it does feel like we kind of rushed into the romance because we were trying to find time for a lot of stuff.
yeah, for sure.
Okay. Let's see. So, all right. Oh, here's a great the way we updated the Danish girl scene I thought was really cool. Also the way they shot this was really cool too. So they had the little deaf girl is actually a little deaf girl.
This is, I mean, this might be if not my favorite scene in the movie, definitely one of the more emotional scenes in the movie.
You want to hear something that's going to make your heart melt?
Oh God, what?
Okay, this is beautiful. So they did not. I again, I don't know if like the little girl actually thought he was Santa Claus, but essentially the way they shot it was like they didn't rehearse this. So Attenborough learned sign language, or I don't know if he already knew signs or he learned it for this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, he surprised her with the idea of Santa Claus knowing sign language to the girl.
Nice.
So that's the thing. So I don't know if it entirely was like maybe she thought he actually was Santa, or at the very least, she didn't expect him to actually communicate with her during the scene. So that was a real reaction from the girl.
I mean, that's the reason I think the scene plays so well is that you get the idea that like this is a Christmas memory that is going to literally like be cherished and last a lifetime that we're seeing like playing out before our eyes.
And of course, like the best part of the movie in any iteration is him being a really good Santa with the kids and like directly helping the parents out by steering them to like the stores and everything. But then that kind of brings to the complication with the Shoppers Express stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, just to give credit where credit's due, the gum gun is kind of a funny idea. Being the gadget nut that I am, I just want to highlight the gum gun.
Sure.
So Shoppers Express, I feels like the commercial, like the missed opportunity in the commercialism here would have been in a modern day setting. You would have had maybe a struggling department store versus Walmart.
Right.
I think, especially with a name like Shoppers Express, I think that's the direction we should have maybe experimented with, just to differentiate the two. Because of this, we have this whole thing where we have a villain plot where we don't need one.
And let's be frank, the villains are played up so much that they kind of have like they kind of vaguely give off the same vibe of the men in the poorly lit rooms who secretly control the universe from the Avengers. Like vaguely that sinister undertone to it.
Yes,
You
the
know?
World Security Council.
Yes, the men in the poorly lit rooms who secretly control the universe.
Yeah, but it just feels like we've convoluted something very simple, like the
No,
whole
it does. It
moral of
does. They are
the whole,
absolutely my least favorite element of the movie. My brain literally just kind of like fuzzed over those parts, honestly, because I knew it was stupid. I didn't
that,
need to dissect that.
okay. That said, again, here's like this scene makes no sense just out of context. I think it is kind of cute, just seeing James Remar and who I love, by the way, James, from Dexter, of course.
Mm-hmm.
James Remar and Jane leaves, just like after the villain's like, oh, he's not Santa Claus, is leaving the room, and they reveal like the little I believe button. That's cute. Then doesn't make any logical sense, but it's cute.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, yeah, but that's the thing there with the whole moral, the best part of Miracle on 34th Street is that like you had like the two stores in healthy competition with each other, and was the holiday spirit reached them both, and they both like teamed up, and like it was a good practice. We don't want to take Santa Claus to court and everything. Like it was a really happy story, and now it's like, oh, we're trying to buy Kohl's because we want to turn into a clothing outlet store, and we want to change the spelling of the name. No,
exactly.
Still, it just feels like, and then we have like the whole conspiracy element of like, okay, James Remar, you're gonna pay the drunkard Santa to antagonize our good-hearted Santa.
Mm-hmm.
Into hitting him. Here's the thing: it also feels like we're very beholden to the original in certain places, in that we really build up that cane strike a lot in the movie. Like always grabbing that cane. We have that musical theme, like bah, he's getting upset. He's gonna whack that guy, and he barely even when he actually does hit him. It looks more like he
okay. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
When he goes for the actual hit, I mean, really, the way it looks like I don't even think he hits him, because the way they shot it. I think he has to tap him a little bit, but then I know he milks the fall, but it's like, did you see contact?
Like very vague contact, and like you said, it's one of those things where it's one of those things where the guy was milking the injury, of course. So yeah. Dragon, we need to talk about what this dude says to set Kris Kringle
so
off.
That's a great. I think that's a great addition, though.
I think it was really bold to include something that just like it's literally like, and Kris Kringle says himself, like, he said the worst thing you could possibly say about a child.
It was a 3 strikes thing, and think about it. He was really disrespectful in 3 stages. Okay, so 1. He was disrespectful to the young girl who was like the elf assisting, who, by the way, familiar face. That's Jennifer Morrison, the young Jennifer Morrison from Once Upon a Time. That's Emma Swan.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, so he was really rude to her. Basically, he was kind of teeing up the whole thing of like, oh yeah, Santa might be flirting with the staff, which already is kind of really inappropriate.
Right.
And then he's like telling the kids that he's an old man who lives in like a kind of a home for the elderly or something, like basically like a kind of a shelter down the street.
And both these things, it's like it's not great at all, but it's kind of just like you can pass it off as just like a stereotypical drunken asshole.
And then we have the 3rd strike that's about to get this guy a strike on the noggin.
Escalates things, man. It escalates things.
Plus,
so
the way the build up in which we shoot this again,
like Dragon Batman would choke the shit out of this guy for saying something like this.
Absolutely. So he's like this poor old Kris is just walking down the street, and this guy's like accosting him, like he's antagonizing him so much, like getting in his face from behind, and like saying like oh yeah, the only thing kids are good for, like he gets some sort of sick thrill being around the kids, don't you? Basically implying that he's got he's very inappropriate Santa Claus.
Yeah, which I mean, like I said, man, I was shocked that this movie went there, but like I applaud it for going there, because it's like any reasonable person who cares at all about kids would just lose their shit in an accusation like that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's so understandable, and like you said, like Kris Kringle, like the actual outburst is really kind of nothing, but still, it's like you get why, like from a plot point of view, you get why like he was just not going to let that shit stand. I mean, there's no way,
Absolutely, and then of course it's a sad sight though that they have like a camera and everything ready for them. It's
Of
despicable.
course, there's
You
a
feel
fucking news crew like ready to go. It's the
well,
night.
no, that was they were prepared to get evidence of it, so
Oh,
that was
you're right. You're
planned.
right. I'm
So
sorry.
it
Yeah.
wasn't they
Right.
weren't just randomly there, Tika. That was like their whole
No,
plan.
you're
Like
right. You're
no,
right.
they paid this guy to do this too.
Uh,
I do like the visual. We'll get into the
well,
whole
didn't it?
payoff.
Wasn't there something like that involving the Howard Hamlin scam where there was like someone on the site to take the picture?
Well,
Am I misremembering that?
well, I mean, well,
Oh
here's
wait, no. I'm thinking of Chuck when Chuck sets up Jimmy.
yeah,
Right? There's like
yeah,
some guy who's just literally there as a witness.
Chuck literally had a witness who was basically in the
That's what I'm
house, and then
thinking of. Yeah.
You're thinking Hamlin was there too. He was by happenstance was there
Uh-huh.
alongside the witness. So yeah.
Right.
Anyway, better call Saul Assad. I guess speaking of which, though, I do like the legalese here of ultimately again Miracle on 34th Street in both versions here. It's not an actual like trial. It's like a hearing over it's a competency hearing essentially, or like is he a danger, is he a menace, kind of a ruling. And he because the reason for that, especially here, we mention it is that the guy's not pressing charges because if he does, he might have to go in the court and then he would under oath have to lie and or say like why were you there and what it would have given away that this guy was paid to antagonize this man, which clearly would have blown back on them. So
right.
I like that we kind of covered our bases there, and also we'll get to the questionability of the big change in the adaptation later on. But I do like that we set up the whole money thing visually, where we
Dragon,
close up
that
on
change, I mean, we'll get into it. I'm positive for the change. I understand that it's not as iconic or cinematic as the original, but I have a good argument for it. We'll get there.
Sure, but point being, I do like however people feel about it. I do like that we kind of close up on it, so we visually have kind of been setting it up too. I like that. Anyway, let's see. So the point being, I still I'm iffy on those. The fact that in the original, Chris was kind of bamboozled into the into basically the competency test and flunking it. And here he did intentionally have like an honor bound thing, which I mean.
I don't like that either. I kind of feel like he's being a little bit too much of a martyr. Even seems it can be too much of a martyr sometimes.
It's like I like that he feels bad about it, but
no, but like as we already clearly established, like any good-hearted person would lose their shit at what this piece of shit said to him.
Exactly, and it's like okay, look. Richard, don't play it like Gandhi, okay? Just play it.
We know you directed Gandhi, but
look,
method acted.
Mr. Attenborough, we're all very impressed with what you did with Gandhi, but it's a Christmas thing.
Richard Attenborough holds up a VHS copy of Gandhi, and he's like, you can watch the whole movie on here.
Yes, Mr. Attenborough, we can watch the movie. It's on the shelf. I assure you, it's on the shelf. Just look. A little more pomp and circumstance, if you please. Thank you. Anyway, so let's see. Okay, so here's I want to mention this too before we forget about it. So here's a change that we have here that is rather interesting, and I like it to a point. So we have the limo ride home, in which basically, the shoppers, the Shoppers Express guys, James Remar and
the men in the poorly lit rooms who secretly control the universe.
Yes. So essentially, they give Chris a limo ride home so they can assess the man and see if they can maybe kind of grease his palms and get him to come over to their side or some such rot, or at the very least assess the guy for their devious machinations. And I love the Santa Claus explanations here. Like we get a little bit more of it here than we did then. We played it very vague in the original, which was a good call, but here I do like the whole time manipulation thing that he lays out. Like the whole how the heck does he do it all in one night? So he's given it's vague enough, but still like just a little tidbit of like how the heck would he do it if a guy's just going to answer very honestly if you asked him point blank, like how do you do it? So I love that. Here's where I think we went too far though. I think the Easter Bunny line was when we just went too far.
Yeah.
Like if we could have just cut out that Easter Bunny line. It's cute, but it's like too far though. It breaks the
It's not
reality.
great because like the whole charm of this story is the fact that at the end of the day it is ambiguous, and the more ambiguous it is, I think the more effective it is. And so with him saying the Easter Bunny line, it's like I don't want to think about other mythological fairy tale creatures.
Like the Easter Bunny makes it. It's to be believed if he says it's the Easter Bunny, because you basically have to imagine. Okay, so if he's actually doing this, that means there's a real Easter Bunny, and then we get into like a whole semantics thing.
I don't want
Like,
to
wait,
unpack that. I mean, it's like that implies that there's like, like what? Like a freaking, I don't know, what other holiday.
well, basically, it's like Rise of the Guardians, essentially.
Didn't he say something about a tooth fairy too at some point?
I don't think he meant. I think the bad guys jest about the Tooth Fairy.
Okay, yeah.
I think he just mentioned the Easter Bunny. He did mention the Easter Bunny's in New Zealand though.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, again does make me wonder. Oh boy, can you imagine like a '90s version with the Easter Bunny like we saw, like we saw in Rise of the Guardians with Hugh Jackman in an Easter Bunny costume?
Oh my god! Like in a like Jim Henson Ninja Turtle style.
Yes.
Suit.
Yes.
Yeah,
God. Anyway, so again, it robs us of the ambiguity if we mention the Easter Bunny. But again, like, him having detailed explanations and like the whole thing of like the reindeer don't fly until Christmas Eve, like that's cute. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That works. All right, let's see. So, let's see. So anyway, so I love Bedford in basically legal drama with Santa Claus, which is kind of a play on his stuff from The Practice, which is really kind of it's cheeky and I like it. Let's see. So we have Collins. So basically, the third act. We're in the courtroom drama here. We have Collins. Collins, the DA. His wife is on the stand. Again, if there were picket signs, one of them would say "Coal for the DA." Would be great.
Mm-hmm.
So Collins, we call Collins' wife on the stand versus we have like a random kid on the stand. So I think we kind of maybe botched it a little bit here. Where I think I don't know. It's like the original we had like literally like I think the DA's son was like on the stand. And it feels like we're gonna put a kid on the stand. Then we're gonna put the DA's wife on the stand, but not his kid. Or we're gonna have him talk about his children. I don't know.
And could we have swapped the DA's kid with the judge's kid? I feel like that's kind
that
of
too.
Went.
I don't think that's the judge's kid. It's just a kid. It's just a random kid.
Wait, it's not. I thought it was implied to be the judge.
I don't think that's the judge. Do you think is that? I mean, it looks similar, but I think it's just a kid that was on his lap earlier in the movie. I don't
grandchild.
Think that, well, that's what I mean. Is grand,
right?
Well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I don't think the kid on the stand is his grandson from the opening. I don't think it is. Which makes it questionable why not have that.
He implies as much though.
Well, no, the judge talks to the kid nicely, but I don't think he says. I think he would have mentioned like could have called him grandpa or something if it actually was him.
Okay, now I'm confused because I thought for sure that was the same kid from the.
I think it's a kid that we saw on his lap in the movie. I don't think it's the grandson from the first scene. I don't think it is. I gotta
be honest with you, that's kind of a little bit of a continuity goof. Then
when Chris walks and he gets on the stand, he greets the judge in mentioning that scene. Though that might be what you're thinking of, because I saw you and your grandson earlier.
Right.
But I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's a different kid. I think that's a kid who was on his lap, like when the troublemaking drunkard Tony, when drunk Tony was on the scene.
All right, my mistake.
Again, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. But it is very cute with that kid on the stand, though. Man, that's the standard at play is cute. It just feels like we're jumping through hoops not to do the same exact thing from the original.
Right.
But it doesn't feel like we should have a bunch of kids on the stand.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like that sort of ties into the actual like resolution of the court case. I feel like the instinct with this movie was to go a little bit more small with it, and I think in going small it made it a little bit more realistic, which I like.
Yeah. Yep.
And I do think that we got across the the scope of how many people this is affecting just from the montage of the We Support Santa Claus. buttons and, you know, messages and whatnot throughout the city.
Yeah, they believe in Santa Christ.
Indeed.
Well, there's a remake for you. We have a distinguished English actor playing Santa Christ.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so let's talk about the big, the "In God We Trust" solution to our dilemma here.
So I don't know, Dragon. I'm honestly like, I totally get that it's not as like cinematic as like, you know, like loads and loads of letters coming into the courthouse. But for me, I feel like logically it makes so much more sense, and I just really appreciate it just based on that kind of like Better Call Saul legalese logic, you know, where the whole time we're not just having to, you know, we're not convincing the jury, we're convincing this one guy and throwing the "In God We Trust" thing. I love how that loops back around to like, it gives him just enough logic to be able to actually, you know, roll in Chris's favor. I honestly really love this change, and it might not be popular for me to like it because, like I said, I totally acknowledge that the original is a lot more iconic and cinematic. I get that, but I just think from a writing point of view, I really like how logical it is.
All right, so a few things here. Sorry's probably wondering, man, why they're mentioning Better Call Saul a lot during this podcast. Well,
Well, it's
we
so
are
you won't be an Imagineer, folks. We're going to mention Better Call Saul a lot. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I know that that's a water is wet kind of truth about it. What I'm getting at is you're probably wondering why, but even more so than usual, there's a direct connecting thread between Better Call Saul and Miracle on 34th Street, and that does bring us to the letter thing. Where without the original letter scene, though, Hugh Babineau does not get out of Dodge. I will have you know. So there's a point. There's a point in favor of the letters always. We must say. But that said, look, I want to be clear. I do think you gotta remember it's the same get out of jail free card here. It's the same loophole in that it's basically a form of documentation or a loophole like this that basically is like it's very similar. So I think either one does play. Just the letter has a better Santa connection because it's like letters to Santa, and that literally is like the belief in Santa Claus.
But I do like the idea of essentially weaponizing the Christmas card with a little bit of money in it, though. I feel like that's also like some pretty rich Christmas iconography.
No. Sure. What I'm saying is, I like the money. I'm just saying, if I were like you asked me, like gun to my head to pick one, I'm gonna go with the letters every time because of.
I would say gun to my head. Yeah, I'd probably go with the letters too. But I like the fact that they changed it because letters is probably the single most iconic moment of the original. So I respect the fact that the remake was able to go in a more scaled back direction that I think still hits pretty hard.
Yeah. I mean, look, it is a brilliant loophole though, the whole like "In God We Trust," because again, there's no legit proof of there's no legit like by a legal standard of proof of God. So but we print that on US currency. Like that's a great idea. Like that would exonerate him if everyone else basically believes that he's Santa Claus. You can't say he's not Santa by that logic. That's great. And I just feel, though, had we hit the whole commercialism thing a little bit more, the money, it feels like that's a remnant from that desire of why John Hughes made the movie, and he had that payoff in his back pocket. Like, if I'm going to change it, I'm going to tie it into like the modern day. It's all about the almighty dollar. I think that would have like resonated even more, and I think people would have gotten more on board for it if you catch my meaning there. Where I think it does work and it does make sense, and it is. From a plot standpoint, it does work, but the way it comes across, the way it enters the fray is very clunky. It's like little girl just walks up to the judge, gives him a card randomly. It saves the day, and again, everything. The moment he opens that card on, we're good. But just it's a clunky delivery mechanism. So that's the thing. I think that when people look back on it, it's like, man, it does not have the same ambiance as the original, even just in delivery mechanism aside. It's like, I don't know. But again, there's nothing wrong with the dollar solution gets a lot of hate that is unwarranted, but it's different. But it's different, but it does work.
Yeah.
Anyway,
all right.
So
now, what I don't think works though is the basically the 15 minutes after the trial.
That's actually runtime. Well, here's the thing. Literally, the trial does put us, essentially at the hour and a half mark, which is what the original I believe is what the original was.
But no, we need to wrap up the adult relationship shit.
Yeah, it takes a long time. It's really hokey and really clunky, and it's just terrible. It's just the
It's
idea.
honestly the worst part of the whole movie. It drags the whole movie down. I like the beat at the end. I like the joke at the end. But other than that, the whole last 10 minutes or so is pretty like you could just cut.
The idea that really, John Hughes, really, you're gonna have Santa Claus parent trap him into a marriage.
right.
Really, that's what you're gonna.
I mean, honestly, I love the I do respect the fact that the final time we see Santa Claus in this movie is the line like home. No, I'm going to be quite busy tonight, or something like that. You know,
that
I
was.
love the fact that we, that that is kind of the last beat. But then he just kind of like, we don't see him, but he kind of lingers around the plot a little too long.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It was a great exit for him.
It's like when he had that exit, you were like, okay, shit, time to make some time to make some toys and deliver them to kids. Not time to make some real estate negotiations.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So marriage comes completely just again comes out of nowhere and just like, hey, we're in a church, why not? And we haven't really talked about it. Like they haven't really said two words to each other because he's been busy with the trial,
Right.
I do love this though. So Collins had a great moment with Santa too before that goodbye scene. Just him like says there's nothing personal and says my kids want me to like remind you where our address is. Like that's cute. That's nice. And again, just the friendship between Bedford and Chris was really nice too with that goodbye too. The fact that Bedford offered him like a place to go, was really nice.
Sure.
Anyway, so yeah, silly impromptu wedding. Again, I mentioned earlier, I love that Chris gave him the ring. So at the very least, him providing the ring there, I guess it's just stupid circumstance that gets us there. But hey, he gave him back the ring. You really manufacture that ending, I guess, is kind of the big detriment to the movie. We manufacture getting to that end point, and we're in the house because the original ended with us getting the house.
Right.
I mean, she had the success to get all that, but still,
this house is like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's barely built up throughout the rest of the movie, right? Just the actual existence of the house in the first place.
I mean, the girl showed Santa like the little, like her little clipping from the catalog.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the logic was that it was like part of the catalog from the from the department store. So I think that's like why they were there. I think.
Right.
It doesn't. It still pretty much comes out of nowhere. So we set it up like one time, and it's like, oh yeah, the house thing that you wanted,
and
then we have like the a puppy-esque kind of ending. A year before it, mind you, but let's not beggars not be choosers here. Just we have the, so we have the whole thing. Oh, what was the other thing you asked for? A baby brother, and just like, oh,
see ya.
It's just like, wait a minute.
I do like the see ya at the end. It is just very prototypical 90s kid dialogue.
Yeah.
That's like the one that final beat is like the one element of the ending, like the last 10 minutes I'm willing to forgive. And you know what? Since it is the actual ending of the movie, it kind of, I won't say it redeems the last 15 minutes or so, but it softens it a little bit, That's a good way of putting it. Yeah. All right. Okay, just a couple more comments from Richard's victims. He says, also had a good Christmas, got some gift cards out of the deal. I got what I usually get for Christmas, a bunch of graphic t-shirts. Hell yeah. Woo. Also, Richard's victims is saying, I think Mara Wilson in this film is fine, but I completely get why people don't like her much. And Little Blue did show up, made a little appearance. He says, this and Little Women 1994 I thought were excellent. Yeah, I haven't seen Little Women 1994. The only Little Women adaptation I saw was the Greta Gerwig one, which I think is fantastic. So,
does feature Odenkirk.
Odenkirk and Florence Pugh and Saoirse Ronan, among others. Yes, pew pew indeed. That was a good year for her. It was like I believe that was the year of Pew. That was like where all three of Fighting with My Family, Midsommar, and Little Women came out. Like that was seriously like kind of like the Jim Carrey year for
Yeah.
her. All right, final thoughts, Dragon.
Oh, but I mean, so again, having watched it all the way through, I mean, like again, there's a lot to appreciate here, and again, I do think there are like moments of of like where the magic kind of shines through. I don't think it's the instant classic that the original was. Mind you, it's a remake, so that's a really hard thing to do. Period. But I mean, look, I liked it. I did not love it like the original, but I did like it. And I loved aspects of it. Again, I love Attenborough as Santa Claus. There's a reason to watch the movie, and I do think we kind of hit those beats like exceedingly well. And again, I love him and Dylan McDermott's chemistry in the film. There's fun to be had, and I think we did hit the trial, pretty well. Which again is kind of one of the big takeaways with Miracle on 34th Street, aside from the department store, kind of meet and greets with the kids. So, but again, I at the end of the day, I really can't forgive that we kind of took the other big hallmark of Miracle on 34th Street with the title itself, and that it's like the war of the department stores, but like the friendly war of the department stores. I think we kind of robbed it of the moral, which I think it's like kind of it's a strike against the bow of the ship, but it's still afloat.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think just because of my big Jurassic Park hyper fixation, I think this lands a little bit more for me. I mean, obviously, Richard Attenborough is just kind of like the towering big reason to watch this movie. But I also think, like we established, all four leads are really good. I think Mara Wilson in this movie is kind of like the prototypical like 90s kid in a lot of ways, and I think it actually works for the character. I do like some of the changes, like we went over with the dollar bill thing. I actually think emotionally for me it almost works just as good as the iconic moment. And yeah, for me, I would, if given the choice between watching this and watching the black and white one, I'm sorry, man, I'm going Hammond.
Yeah. But you know what would have made it even better, Tiki?
What? Oh God!
If basically, if the way they present it was, you kind of you go in the theater, you take a seat, then the movie starts, and it's the moment, he starts off, kind of schmoozing with the judge and his grandson, and then the whole theater starts to move. And we're just along for the ride, and it feels like one of those, like one of the early IMAX kind of screenings, like back in the day IMAX, when you kind of like, it was pretty much like the ride in your seat kind of experience, and you don't want to get off, you don't want to like what is going on here? I want to see what how this all works. Like no, you want to sit there, you want to enjoy the effort that went into the production.
It's like I'm sorry, but just to go off on this tangent one more time, as we often do, those eggs were gonna be there. They could, John Hammond is funding this whole goddamn weekend for them, and they could have had the courtesy to sit on his little 15-minute Carousel of Progress ride and watch Mr. DNA and listen to some lame jokes. They could have given him that courtesy instead of like literally like pushing up against the lap bars. They could have crashed the whole restraint system with what they did.
I mean, let's be honest, okay? We say a lot of nice things about Sam Neill, but Alan Grant's just an anarchist at the end of the day. He has no respect for
that.
He has no
bad boy. He's the bad boy of paleontology.
Yeah, Alan Grant has no showmanship. He has no respect for for a well-worn attraction. He just doesn't. Alan Grant's the guy who's just like he doesn't let the person like lower the lap bar for him. He's got the let me do it. Or it's like
you know that he'd be the asshole in Carousel of Progress, where if he had like some sort of thing he had to take care of, he'd just get up right in the middle of the show. Doesn't matter if he's breaking the immersion for everyone else.
Alan Grant's the guy who's gonna be like during Detroit. If anyone needs to get off the ride, just raise your hand during the middle, and we'll let you off. That's him.
Okay.
He's the guy who's gonna get to the peak of the ride. He's gonna like as if he's like wearing a ball cap, and with the name Spielberg, he's like, I'm gonna get off now. And just you have like John Hammond like sitting there, like, come on, man! I put a lot of work into this. You're ruining the magic here.
Oh man. Dragon, it's literal fucking magic. The fact that you and I both hyper fixated on that same element of Jurassic Park
Yep.
without telling the other, and then during that commentary, it just that's genuinely still one of my
See,
favorite.
that's the thing when they do this new Jurassic Park movie. What they have to do is they have to go to the island. They have to see like the dilapidated remains of the attractions. Got to be some secret, like if they pick up where it left off.
Oh my god!
It's like in the Star Wars. It's like in Force Awakens where we have the bit where we see like the game of holographic chess continue. Like what the next move would have been. We're gonna see what the rest of the attraction. It's gonna be all worn down, and destroyed, mind you, but it's still like move all rickety, be really scary. But we'd see like and that's how we get Attenborough back. Like the only way we would ever accept more Attenborough is like archived footage that maybe is made a little.
Yes, I would accept that. I would accept that, even if they had to AI it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the only but again, you'd use it only in that one specific thing. Where, okay, look, we're not gonna milk him. We're not gonna like have him like the man himself recreate. We're just gonna recreate the footage like to make it feel archival. Anyway.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that was one for us. Thank you for indulging us there for a couple minutes. All right, take us out, Dragon.
Do we want to reflect on what we've covered?
Yeah, sure, but you and I weren't around for all of them, so
well,
go down the list. I guess
two of us are here. At least one of the two of us were here for
true.
Everything.
All right. Okay, so you guys started with Red One, which I still haven't seen. I will hopefully see by the time we do memoirs.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So after Red 1, we covered Hot Frosty, right?
Was that the second one?
Jeez. Well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get the order right here. So, we had that. We had Hot Frosty.
Should I just look it up?
I mean, you can. Oh, wait, no. We had Mickey's Twice Upon Christmas.
That's right. That's right. I knew
we went with the seriously, folks. Just in case I was wondering, we went with Red 1 because they had number 1 in the title. Mickey's Twice Upon Christmas because that's 2.
Ooh.
Yes, and Mickey's Twice Upon Christmas. Again, we were very, very scared by the new animation on it, and very much unhappy with the Max Goof betrayal. Then we had Hot Frosty. Hot Frosty was the third one.
Hot Frosty, is it fair to say that's probably going to end up being the highlight of the year?
Of seasonal shenanigans, yeah.
Yes, of seasonal shenanigans specifically, yes.
All right, let's see. So then I believe there was Pluto's Christmas Tree.
Yeah, Pluto's Christmas Tree was pleasant enough. It was, I will fully admit, that was probably the one filler selection we had where we kept going back and forth, like, what do we do? What do we do? Oh, fuck it. Let's just do a 7-minute Disney short. It'll be easy. But you know what? I did have fun with it. It was nice. It's a very nice short, very iconic. All right.
And then we had Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer.
Which was, of course, a very fun discussion and kind of long overdue. I feel like that movie kind of fits right into our sensibilities, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Surprised we haven't done it before.
And then, because it's been forever since we talked about it, I mean, Miracle on 34th Street.
Fucking John Hammond giving Matilda a Merry Christmas. What more can you say?
I mean, yeah.
All right. And, of course, big thanks to Richard's Victims, Little Blue, and everyone else who's made this year one of the most productive years that we've had on the channel. I feel truly blessed to have a small but very dedicated audience, and trust me, I would not want much larger of an audience than we have. And Dragon, we're inching towards 1,200. We're about 11 away from 1,200 right now. So, but it's the running joke that the second we hit 5,000 subs, I'm done. I'm doing a mic drop. I do not need that much attention on me. All right, Dragon, take us out.
All right, folks, time to dash away all, but as we wave goodbye, don't you cry. We'll be back again next year
for even more seasonal shenanigans.
Fa la 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 la. Goodbye,
Hello,
John.
Chris. Hello, Chris.
Goodbye,
Hello, Chris.
Goodbye, Chris.
Chris, that hurt.